vitarka bhadane pratipaksha bhavanam. When you feel bhadane, bound by vitarka, gross programs, we could nowadays say gross conditioning. What is gross gross conditioning? Gross, thoughts. Bhadane. We feel trapped in. What should you do? Bhavanam. Cultivate, meditate on what? Pratipaksha, the opposite, the antidote to that. A very, very good sutra. It means what to do when being trapped in your own negative thoughts or negative actions. What to do when your conditioning has grasped you and made you move in a certain direction that is really gross. It means really not helpful, not good when you are grasped by anger, grasped by rage, grasped by envy, grasped by jealousy, grasped by disgust, grasped by judgment, grasped by all these so-called, also nice, no? In the Yoga Sutra, gross, not very subtle, not very refined. First of all, it's so nice that he's actually not saying negative, bad, you know? He just says gross. How come he says just gross? Because in that moment in which you are actually identified to these kind of programs, these kind of, you know, ways of operating, whether that's in your thoughts and you sit down and your whole world revolves around this, or whether you actually act it out. It is gross because it continuously actually presumes a world that is based in duality. A world where there is object subject duality. A world in which anything is outside of myself. That's why it's gross, because it isn't what you are. You are infinite intelligence. You aren't in that body at all. And so you aren't bound to what everyone presumes themselves to be. You aren't bound by the senses. You aren't bound to the body. In fact, as you come to know yourself, what you're realizing is that all of what you have mistaken yourself to be, this body mind, this sense perception, my stories, my memories, everything gets seen as simply a perception inside of awareness. Its falsity becomes known to you experientially. It's like, it's one of these things that then there's a complete disillusionment from what we have continuously perceived ourselves to be. And so it is very gross because those really gripping programs are upheld actually continuously by fortifying this stance. You need to fortify your identified stance to even play those programs out with someone else. This person is separate from me. So, what's the me that you're assuming in that moment? That this person is separate from you. You have to assume this body mind. Because if you actually assume your true self, which is infinite awareness, pure presence, then are you separate from? It's a completely different paradigm. And that also has to dawn on you from that true recognition or remembrance of what you are. It doesn't matter if someone is at the other side of the planet. It doesn't matter whether you physically appear to someone else, because you are not this body mind. So all the things that we continuously assume actually that need to happen for interaction, for example, are not actually true, because you are not found inside this body mind. And so oneness also means that. It also obviously means that this body mind isn't anymore seen as the only focal point inside your awareness. This is when true love dawns, and when a more universal love is also realized as what you are, because you are the presence, the awareness, the I, as consciousness in which all is taking place, in which everyone emerges. And so pratipaksha bhavanam, oftentimes we think, if I'm, if I'm gripped by my programs, gripped by anger, by anxiety, by all these things, pratipaksha bhavanam is just to cultivate the opposite. It can already actually can purify a lot, like changing some skaras. And even if it's more difficult for you to do that, like you have this certain outlook, you aren't even completely conscious of it. What's the biggest problem? I've seen that a lot in my past life as a yoga therapist. Is a lot is oftentimes unconscious. It's just unconsciously cultivated, conditioned from your childhood, from your traumas, from your stuff. And there's a lot that can be done also on more unconscious levels of yourself to cultivate the opposite of what is the samskara, what is the pattern. But the ultimate, and even to become more conscious of your own patterns, the ultimate is always actually pratipaksha. What's the ultimate antidote? Awareness. Moving back into more subtlety, not vitarka. What means more subtlety? Coming back to the space of I am. Removing these filters, meditating on the self, not taking on thoughts. So what's a good thing to do? When you are gripped, you are angry again. First thing we can actually do when that happens is to start seeing that we are the ones continuously projecting something on a screen, oftentimes on completely, like truthfully, completely empty objects. We play out this. How come? And can dawn on you that this is an inside pattern, some inside tension that needs to be projected onto this world, onto objects, to play something out with them, to be available on that level, actually. Like, think about it. We're continuously available on this strange kind of dualistic level to play out these kind of patterns. Why ultimately? Because to become conscious of it, to resolve it, to become more aware, more conscious, even of vitarka, how gross this is, what am I doing all the time? I need to play stuff out with you because I still perceive myself as this body mind. So, what is the antidote? You go back into stillness. You observe. You witness. Witness without the typical kind of judgment. So it isn't that you can, the best thing actually is not to witness your emotions and have all these thoughts around it and all these judgments and already want to find the cause and the culprit and the underlying problem. The best is to simply observe, to move back even further, to be the awareness that is simply aware, to witness from that space everything that arises without instantly having these kind of aha moments. And to even observe these aha moments, to move back further, into deeper, into the stillness that's already here, into the awareness that is simply present. And stick with that. Don't take on thoughts, not even your aha thoughts, because those aha thoughts are mostly also still very conditioned by your mind, by what you think you know, by all these kind of things. They don't, oftentimes, if you admit it to yourself, they don't really come from a deeper space, maybe a little deeper, or a little more reflected space about what is going on, but not actually coming from like a higher self or the self, the deepest knowing. Deepest knowing is actually just, letting it be. So you move back, you sit in the stillness that you are. You don't take on even aha. You're completely disinterested. You detach from any and every thought, no matter what an insight it suddenly provides to you. Even that you drop. Just sit in silence more often, more often, more often. And but two things can happen. This is the actual antidote. It is a space of pure presence in which these patterns can be changed by itself without you doing anything actually about them. Even sometimes just the letting go, the letting go of trying to figure it out, trying to know better, trying to whatever we actually usually do to change what we deem is not good, or what we suddenly become conscious of. You just drop it all. You just be with the true antidote, which is always I am, the space of I am. For those of you that, you come back to I am, you come back to the self. You don't take on any thoughts, any suggestions, any ideas, anything actually. The greater presence that you are can actually um, work out things far beyond your mind, your conscious interaction, your conscious contribution. All these things can all be worked out without you even having to be conscious of it. So we are learning that vitarka badane, those gross actions, where they come from, namely the false assumption of being somehow found inside this body mind. This can already also shift something for you. What am I continuously assuming in the moment in which those hit me? What do I have to assume? And then all these moments in which you are unsure how to act, what to do, don't sit in meditation waiting instantly for an answer. Sit in the stillness of what you are without taking on anything that appears. You're no longer taking what appears to be reality. Massive. So you're no longer using meditation actually to gain something for it, to uphold this continuous sense of self in the body. You are actually letting it go. You're letting appearances be as they are. You're stopping your allegiance to appearances altogether. You are giving your allegiance to something deeper. You are surrendering, actually. You are letting go. You're surrendering to something that isn't vitarka, that isn't gross at all, doesn't operate on that level even, doesn't need minds to operate. So that's such a helpful sutta. It shows these different layers actually. It shows you what is vitarka, it shows you what to do when you are bound. It shows what most people do, which is already great, is to meditate on the opposite, to cultivate the opposite attitude, to try to shift their samskaras consciously. But there's also something deeper here. That's what Patanjali points to also. And that is helpful because you are stopping your continuous allegiance with the ephemeral world, with the world of appearances. You're starting also to understand what is actual meditation about. What do you really want to come to know again? Is obviously the causal reason why vitarka exists. 2:33. Thank you so much for listening. Namaste.